there's a one of the huge issue that often does not get talked about, and that is what is happening with Black women and infertility. We've often talked about the issue of fibroids on this show, but this is also one of the issues that's going to be addressed in an upcoming documentary by OWN. It is called Eggs Over Easy. This is dealing with the questions of infertility among African American women, and it's not just infertility, as I said, fibroids, but also we've talked about the difficulty that Black women have had even when having children. So joining us right now is the executive producer and director of the documentary, Chiquita Lockley, also Keshia Knight, and narrator of Eggs Over Easy, and also the founder of the detoxnow.com, Coach Gessie Thompson. Glad to have all three of you here. This is something that Gessie, we've had you on before talking about this, that doesn't get lots of play. Recently, Vice President Kamala Harris had a White House conference dealing with the issue of mortality, Black mortality. Again, it's amazing how all these pro-life folks are real quiet when it comes to the health of Black women.
It's the White House Day of Action really was monumental. And, when it comes to this story, I thank you again, Roland, because you always create this platform for us. From my very first time having this story, sharing my story of infertility with you, to the miracle babies that came along the way. If we didn't have someone like you to help us share the story, it would be muted. But I am so happy that because the revolution that Dr. Carr talked about is happening because of us in our communities, and people like Chiquita and people like Keshia Knight Pulliam and others who really centered this conversation. And shout out to Chiquita, who's been working on this documentary for a long time and who did not give up on making sure that these stories were amplified, because it's not enough for us to have these conversations in silos. It needs to be centered on a national platform, and also for us to be educated about those things that are available to us, whether it be integrative, whether it be IVF, whether it be holistic, whether it be support and therapy, as well as egg freezing, all the resources that we need to actually have healthy miracle babies and not be in the situation where the mortality and morbidity crisis is at the alarming rates it's at right now.
Chiquita, there were folks who were on social media mocking the title of this documentary.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so why was this name chosen?
So in our culture, we often say if a woman is older, her eggs are boiled eggs or scrambled eggs. And I happen to be, well, it's twofold. So I happened to be watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta, and one of the cast members.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No hate on the city.
You will never see a housewife thing over here. But go ahead.
It's been a while.
Go ahead.
But flung that out, and I was like viscerally affected. Because how are you going to tell this woman, oh, you have scrambled eggs because you're old? And I think she was like maybe 40. And so that kind of stuck in the back of my head. Like, why is this such a tough conversation? Why do you always have to say, oh, if you're over 35, something is wrong? So there was that. And then there was my own personal situation, going to my gynecologist, and I go every year for an annual. And she finally says, hey, you're turning 42. Your eggs are turning 42. What do you want to do with them? And so that just made me like spiral and try to figure out, what is she even talking about? Or do what with them? Do I have any? Because I am 42. And so I just kind of thought, okay, how do we make this an easier conversation? If everybody's talking about it, it won't be such a hard topic anymore. And so in sitting with it, that's what I felt God gave to me, Eggs Over Easy. And it's picked up traction. It's doing pretty well. So I did see commentary on Twitter, but if people don't want to give the film a shot and actually look at it and take the lessons from it, and make sure, if you are Gen X and your season may or may not have passed, or it's not something you're interested in, tell your little sisters, tell your mentees, because nobody is telling us about AMH, anti-malarial hormone, which lets you know, well, it's one of the indicators of whether or not you even have an egg reserve. Nobody's talking about that. So maybe instead of spending so much time and energy on the title, watch it and then take notes, because I've done the research, so you don't have to go do the research on your little Twitter, and then pass along these lessons so that the people who are coming behind us don't have to wake up at 30 or wake up at 40 trying to figure out a procedure that's the cost of a car when most of our parents can't help us pay for this. So we need a better plan. Felicia Fant is one of the executive producers on the documentary, and she says, plan for your body the way you plan for your career. So I went to Spelman, Keshia went to Spelman. That's a women's college. It's the #1 HBCU, by the way. So if we aren't talking about it, if we don't know these answers, then most people probably aren't talking about it, and most people probably don't know these answers. So what I hope to do with the film and what our intention is, even with the title, is to spark that conversation and make sure that your 25-year-old niece doesn't have to deal with what our generation kind of had to deal with. And Roland, thank you for having this conversation.
I am as I often wear different HBCU attire. I'm wearing St. Augustine's University hoodie today, so they might disagree with your assessment of the #1 HBCU. Keshia, let me go to you. Why was it important? Why did you want to be involved in this project?
You know, it was really important to me for a variety of reasons. The funny thing is that we started this so long ago, right after my daughter Ella was born. So she was born and she's almost 5. And really, it started out as just me supporting someone that I love, Chiquita and Felicia. But what I knew was that this was a really important story to be told, because we don't have this authentic, transparent conversation around all things that have to do with our reproductive system, whether it's if you want to have a baby, if you don't want to have a baby, you know, what your fertility looks like, have you had miscarriages along the way? Like, these are such subjects that come with so much misinformation and so much shame, that one of the things that are really important to me in what I do is ensuring that I use my platform to for good, use my platform to put information out there specifically for Black women, because I am a Black woman and I am a mother to a little girl who will be a Black woman. So it was a no-brainer when, you know, Chiquita first approached me about this. I was like, okay, Spesh. So outside of having gone to Spelman, we're both Delta. She's my Spesh. So, you know, I had a little bit of obligation because she was like, Spesh, I need something. I was like, what do you need? Okay, is how it started. But she knows that there's nothing that I wouldn't do for her. And it was my honor to not only narrate this film, but also become an executive producer and even share my story. You know, like Chiquita and everyone has already said, we're taught about our career. We're taught about, you know, it's kind of crazy. You spend your first half for your life trying not to get pregnant, and then the second half trying to, and never does it occur to you that it may not happen as easily as you think it will. So it was important for me to also share my journey and, you know, where I stand, because the other piece is you can be in a place in your career where you say, you know what, I know I want children, but I know I don't want them today. So what does that look like? And I think the biggest thing is making sure that women feel empowered, that whatever your decision is, whether it's to have children, to not have children, to wait, to freeze your eggs, whatever that looks like, you know, it's your uterus and your choice. And recently I posted something, because especially in my position, people always want to have assumptions about what's going on in your body. And I just had to tell people, like, just back up off my uterus. It's really that simple. Your uterus is no one else's business.
Now I want to go to questions from my panel. First up, Avis, what you got?
Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for developing this documentary and really bringing this much needed topic out into the light. My question for you is, you know, what are some of the things that you have found? I know for me specifically, the statistics around maternal mortality as it relates to Black women are absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this issue of infertility, do we see a similar level of disparity between Black women and having to struggle with the issue of fertility as compared to other women, and particularly white women? For example, are we much more likely to struggle with this? Or is the issue that we're much less likely to be able to move forward with the actions that are necessary in order to possibly overcome it?
Well, I want to start with something. I think it's twofold. I think that a lot of it is the access, the resources, and the knowledge around the subject. And that's really what we're trying to shed light on, because yes, there'll be a disparity specifically if the information isn't disseminated to all people. If we aren't receiving the information to make the informed choices, then decisions are made for us. When we could have had something different to do and a different input, but we didn't know how. So I'll let, Chiquita chime in with the statistic piece of it. But I think that, that disparity is paramount.
Yeah, thank you, Keshia. So if we're just looking at numbers, Black women and Black people in general, you know that we have medical disparities. If you look at 243%, which is the maternal mortality rate, like we're dying about 3 times more often than a white woman. If you look at the cost of having to pay for IVF, even if you have a great job, if we're making 61 to 62 cents on the dollar of a white man, then is it really apples and apples? No, it's not. It's apples and oranges. Because we're not even at the playing field to even have the money to go and have these procedures done. So it's both. It's definitely in terms of IVF and how we even find information. Do you have a doctor who looks like you? Do you have a doctor who is listening to you? So we have a segment of the film where we just talk about doctors not listening to Black women. We could probably do a Google search and get millions of hits. I talk about Serena Williams because she is like famous with a huge audience, and it didn't matter. And none of that mattered because her skin was Black and the doctor still didn't listen to her. So yes, to your question.
Yeah.
Jeff,
I was going to say, if I could chime in real quick on that.
Go ahead.
Another thing is that Black women are disproportionately affected by fibroids, as you know, and fibroids is actually a leading cause of, if not sometimes the cause of actual infertility, as it was in my case. So now you have, let's add that layer. All right. So we're disproportionately affected by fibroids. We get them in more number, we get them in larger size, more symptomatic. And that now makes a layer of complexity with respect to the infertility equation. That now, yes, we're disproportionately affected by that. So now we're even more affected by fertility and infertility, if I could add that. And because of that, because we're thrown. So let's add now the hysterectomy piece, because most women Black women are the #1 recipients of hysterectomies.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now we're getting being made infertile by virtue of the fact that that is the #1 way of dealing with the issue, which, that is why we advocate and we educate over and over, and we help women every day to look at what are their options, what are their integrative options, holistically, diet, stress, management, as well as surgeries, whatever it is that they need together in order to heal these issues. So they're dealing with them at the root if they want to have children as well.
Jeff?
Sure. First, I want to thank you all of you sisters, for the work that you're doing out there. Gessie, for the work that you're doing with Detox Now. Keshia, for lending your voice to this project. And of course, Chiquita, for being bold enough to step out there and deal with a real issue. I can say personally, there's no more humbling experience than actually seeing birth and being there. And I've been blessed to be in a room with my wife and the midwives, and just to see that first burst of life, and to recognize that one thing that we all have in common, no matter what our politics are, no matter where we come and we have emerged into this world, into these earth suits that we're wearing through the womb of a woman. So there's so much respect that I have there. I also have respect for women who don't call it quits. So when I'm counseling young women and they say, hey, I'm 25, my life is over, I remind them that my own parents met late in life. My mother met my father in her mid-30s. My brother was born when she was 37 years old. She was 39 years old when she had me, and she was a week shy of her 44th birthday when my sister was born. So my question to you all, and the great work that you're doing, is how can we as a community continue to provide hope for women out there who are looking to have children in any possible means? And how can we provide hope for them? And how can we provide support for them so that we can continue to pass things on generationally?
I mean, we're doing it right now. We're having these conversations, and there are so many women who are watching, and they're feeling like I'm not alone. They're feeling like, okay, I have options, I have resources. There are people who are hearing me, who are listening. So I feel like what we're doing now is really important, in paying it forward and sharing this information, making sure, you know, that when we fought to have this story told, and it's coming on OWN tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, you know, Pacific time, that we show up, you know, that we support, that we tell a friend, hey, you know, let's watch this, let's support this, because what we also know in this business is that it is a business, and it's about what is successful. So if we want to continue to have these stories told, then we have to support them. So that's what I would say. You know, share this information, and you have to just make sure that you share your stories too as women, because it's easy to only want to share your highlight reel, but the truth is in the journey. The truth is in everything that it took you to get there. And that's also where growth and inspiration happen as well. So make sure that you are bold enough to share your journey, not just, you know, with your closest girlfriends, but with all women who could help and who could benefit and be empowered by what you share.
Makongo, your question.
Well, first of all, I want to commend all three of you for the incredible work that you're doing. It's truly amazing. And my question really is, as Black men, what can we do I mean, we talked about, you know, doctors and people who aren't listening, and we understand that narrative as it relates to the larger community. But in our daily lives, what can we do as Black women as Black men to support our sisters throughout this experience from beginning to wherever it may take them?
If I could jump in here, I love that you asked that question, Doctor. As a woman who battled infertility for 10 years, the number one thing, my husband was with me on the journey. And yeah, that meant that he was not pushing an agenda. If he said, what is it? What's the next decision? As we went from one IVF cycle to another, right? It was, if this is too much on your body, I want this to be, if it's only what you want to do. This is your decision. I'm here to support you. And as I coach women literally all over, I would love to show this testimony wall that we have, if we have it up. But other thing I see in the support that we have is that when women go on these journeys, whether it's holistic or intervention or whatever, that you go on it with them, my brother. Okay. So it's everything from, we have a sister who she couldn't conceive for 12 years, right? And she was really, in fact, the first place we announced this was on your show, Roland. Oh my God, I got goosebumps. And she and her husband were like, look, we're not giving up. We're not giving up. They actually did our detox, our balance program together. And within a month, 2 months, it was a month and a half, they actually conceived. And now they have 2 miracle babies. Why? Because he did it he didn't say, oh, I'm going to be over here cheering you on. He got into the trenches and he did it with her. And the other thing is, be fiercely protective of your spouse, your woman, where you see other people minding their uterus. I'm plugging you, Chiquita. Your line, Eggs Over Easy, has a merch line. It says, mind your uterus. And you see whether it's, you know, your family brothers are usually the ones that are in our sisters' businesses saying, when you going to have children? When you going to have this? You know what? You need to sometimes step in there and say, you know what? This is a very deeply personal, intimate issue. And I really want you to give us some space on this, because these are things that are causing anxiety. They're causing stress. They're causing inflammatory responses in our bodies, causing the very thing that actually will throw off our balance when we're trying, meaning our hormonal balance, when we're trying to conceive. It makes it worse. So be the fierce protector, right? Get in there and actually do it with her. And of course, support.
Well, I'll say this here. Look, I feel you on the stress stuff like that, but sometimes you just got to cuss some people out.
Mind your business.
I ain't got a problem. I know, because it was like shortly after Jack and I got married, one woman kept pressing her about, and I was like, look, we good. I was like, you know, we good. And she was like being all nice about it. And again, I mean, like, we're trying to sit here and be cool, you know, and homegirl kept pressing. you know, and I was like, okay, she need to mind her own damn business. And so just so y'all know, we were not actually in the sanctuary. We were actually in the foyer. And so she kept pressing. She kept pressing. And finally, I was like, yo. And I was like, hey, we fucking, you straight? Homegirl was like, I was like, stop asking them damn questions.
Hey.
She ain't asked that question again.
And that's that.
Last time she asked that question. Yeah, I like, God know I'm gonna cuss somebody out. So I don't know why we like faking the funk. Yes, that's exactly what I did at the Church Without Walls. I didn't care.
Sir.
That woman is watching. You know damn well I was serious when I told you that too. All right, eggs over easy on 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I appreciate it, Chiquita, Gessie, and Keshia. Thanks a lot. Good seeing all of y'all.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for
All
having
right,
us.
folks.
Take care.
That's right. Cuss folks out at church if you need to.
Yes, sir.
All right.